progress.
Do you have any? That's right, James.
Recording in progress.
Scary thought, isn't it? Welcome, everyone. So good to be here with you. You know, I didn't realize it was going to be the opening night of the Olympics, Winter Olympics. So I'm sure some people are doing that. There's always lots to do. But I appreciate... David, you want to come in closer? You're kind of out on the fringe there, dude. Okay. You probably sit in the very back of the church.
We're all a little fringe.
That's true. This is a fringe group. So that makes some sense. And welcome to our Zoom folks. So thank you for being there also. Let's see. Ed and Kristen, thank you. Did you want to say anything first?
Just welcome. There's a restroom down the hall. We love it when you guys come and bring your good spirits. Thank you so much. We've known Lynn for quite a few years now, and we are amazed at him. He's like my mentor, my master, guru.
Yeah, on my Instagram I said, you got to come because he's one of my heroes. Find out why. Yeah, so I'm very grateful for you being here. Lynn. We all are.
Thank you.
So thank you. Lynn's had a very busy schedule lately, so lucky to have him here. And Kristen, thank you for doing the Zoom. Jane is out, not feeling well. Let's see. So I thought last Saturday I attended the rally for Great Salt Lake down at the Capitol. Those are always fun. I try to do that whenever I have those. They had Thomas McConkie. Do you guys know who Thomas McConkie is? Yeah. Actually had him do a little, what he does. Do the Thomas McConkie meditation thing. So let me just take a second or two and settle in, get comfortable, and just close your eyes. Breathe in and out slowly. So I want you to think about, we're going to have a little sharing before we start with Lynn, about kind of what's on your heart and mind. So give you a minute to pause on that thought. Okay. Gosh, isn't it nice to have silence sometimes? That's kind of what struck me. It was just so peaceful and quiet. I love that. So, David, maybe, do you mind if we start with you and you can just kind of in one sentence, because we don't have a lot of time, so like one sentence, what kind of just comes up for you in your heart and mind right now in your life?
I'm just here to listen and experience something new. So
Great. We're happy to have you. So actually, give your name first.
my name is David Borg.
Yeah, thank you. All right, you too?
All right, Dave Curtis, and the thing that came to me was it was great to have, as you were saying, that moment of silence when there's a lot of chaos going around, all around, and that was great.
Thank you.
I'm Kelly Potter, and I guess on my heart and mind lately is just how do you balance like feeling all of the pain of suffering in the world and still maintain your inner peace. I'm struggling with that right now.
I don't think you're the only one. Pam?
I literally am afraid for a friend's husband being taken by ICE. We served out in a Latino ward 10 years ago, and we made a lot of friends there. So my friend and their daughter, they're Americans, but the husband is not born here, and the state just recently took away his driver's license, and I just have, I don't know, I'm terrified for that. You know, it's really bad.
He was a tow truck driver, so they took away that license, so he can't work.
So you can't. That's a great idea. Take away tax-paying citizens, well, maybe not citizens, taxpayers.
Certainly paying taxes.
But I just don't like to contemplate breaking up a family or taking the husband somewhere dangerous. He's actually from El Salvador, so I don't want him to go to El Salvador to that certain place.
Yeah.
Prison.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I don't blame you.
Jay, can you turn up the volume? Maybe they can't hear just because you're going around the room, but.
Well, the mic is here, but so talk loud. I'm not sure if I can see.
Can you hear now? Oh, I can.
Yeah, it's up all the way.
Okay.
So there is who's not hearing so well.
I didn't notice who was.
Okay.
Let's see.
So talk loud. That's the problem I have, is not talking loud enough.
So I have 3 sets of letters I'm sending out to legislators, but one of them is worrying about friends being thrown out. And I don't know which of the other 2 is worse. I think I'm very concerned about the lake. We had a 5-month drought last spring and summer, and the worst snowpack in history now. And I've been skiing. There's not much up there. And our leadership, the question I'm asking them is, when you look back on your legacy, do you want to be one of the leaders who was leading when the lake died and 1 million people lost their homes and businesses and had to move?
No.
Because that's the question at hand, and
Yeah.
they don't seem to see that.
No. Thank you. You didn't give your name.
Alan Jones.
There you go.
I know me.
All right. Hey, Walter. Another man from up north.
Yeah.
So we are just having a quick, like, 1-sentence sharing, Walter and Rick, of kind of what's on your heart and mind right now. Ed, have you had a chance to?
Yeah, I'll say amen to you. I've fairly recently become a certified immigration specialist, and every Thursday night, Kristen and I go over and try to calm everybody's fears that have been here 30 years and are worried about getting, deported. And so I take some of that home with me, and I try to do the same thing, not worry about it. But
I haven't heard of that. That's a cool thing. How did you get involved in that?
No Moss spun off the BYU. It's No More Strangers,
Oh,
and they you can take a course through them. I did it actually a year ago now, but been doing this for a year.
you guys are involved in so many good things.
But
I was not even aware of that. So that's something that, I mean, do you have to, you guys are kind of speaking Spanish too, right? So do you need to be able to do
I'm
that?
in my 5th semester at the U now in Spanish.
Wow. So impressive. But that probably helps a lot to know Spanish if you're going to do that.
She laughs because I don't know it very well yet.
Yeah.
Knows it better than me.
They
that's for
have
sure.
real translators there, but
Oh, they do?
we
So
can do
so
a lot
anybody
of it
could.
ourselves. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. That's really
We're
cool.
probably looking for people with Creole skills too.
Yeah, and Arabic skills and you name it.
Okay. Next man in the back row. Name, serial number.
Hi Jay. Hi team. I'm Stephen Parkin. Some of you may know me as a high school science teacher. I'm certainly aware of the mass walkouts of class today as the students were feeling empowered over topics in their world. Whether I agree with their protest signs or not, I'm glad that they felt empowered to welcome themselves into the new generation of voting.
Yeah, yeah.
The topic that's on my mind, and has been for some time, is housing and why housing costs so much. I appreciate that Salt Lake City mayor has an incubator community out there around 20th West and around 5th South, where there's a village of tiny homes being constructed. And I've been intrigued with that concept. And studying villages around the whole country that have been doing that. And I'll just mention one that has attracted me. It's called Community First Village in the outskirts of Austin, Texas. It's spearheaded by the Lutherans, but they have done these tiny houses where each person still pays rent. So it's about building accountability in the community. They all have a communal kitchen. They all have to take their turn making meals, and just how it brings people back into community. It's self-sustaining. Among them, there's a barber. They pay the barber. I mean, it teaches them the skills of getting back into community.
That's
But
great.
the prices are lower, so they can manage that.
Yeah.
So I'm always weighing, how do you bring people into community without, it's about teaching a man to fish and not giving him a fish. Too much. And to what degree to help is the appropriate amount of help.
Yeah.
So I've been sort of studying that, and it looks like that Community First Village has hit the mark pretty well. There's a lot more I could say. I think I'll stop there with it. Housing has been on my mind.
That's great. I mean, those are similar themes that Lynn's going to talk about
Yeah.
tonight.
What school do you teach in?
I travel between several schools in the Salt Lake District.
Okay. Are you at East High? Or?
Sometimes
Yeah.
Highland High, East High, Horizonte, and West.
I sure heard their report of their protest today. It's really something at East High.
Indeed.
All right. I know your name, but I want you to say it.
I'm Galen Murdoch. I'm Bob and Gloria Reese's son. I've been thinking a lot lately about sustainable humanitarian work. How I have a business where right now 100% of our income is based on the humanitarian work that we do. And we just signed a new 5-year contract with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So the company is doing okay, but it's not paying my bills. And so my staff's okay. I'm trying to figure out how to attach the organization to something larger, more sustainable. And that's a really big challenge, especially 1 year after USAID collapsed and many others with it. We provide a software platform that helps everybody coordinate about the care of a malnourished child and helps that child grow to emerge from poverty along with her family to be a thriving citizen, not only in the first 1,000 days of her life, but throughout. And so in 35 countries, we coordinate the care of volunteers, of church members, of church leaders, of wonderful organizations like Bountiful Children's Foundation, where Bob is brilliant, and still others, and help them integrate with local physicians, local resources, local food, and try to build sustainable programs there. So trying to build a sustainable business off of trying to help others become sustainable. It's a significant challenge.
Yeah. But if anybody can do it,
Well, that's
I believe
kind.
you can, Galen. Seriously.
That's kind.
Galen's brilliant. Kristen.
Oh, I'm worried about all the same things you all are. But I did hear a talk this week where he talked about we offer the firstlings of our flock and the unblemished lamb.
Somebody on Zoom, if you can mute yourself. Okay.
And so the first unblemished hours of the day, going to God instead of the phone and all the stuff, in order to hear what's my role. I mean, I've got all these,
Yeah,
trying
you're
to
doing
do
a lot
these
of things.
doing all these things, and what really does God want me to do?
That's a great
That's what
idea.
I've been thinking about.
So you take time first up in the morning to kind of, think about that. That is really good. Okay, really quick, Walter and Rick, introduce yourselves though still.
Okay. Rick Cassidy. I've been here off and on, I guess, since the days on
Sugar House.
Yeah,
We've survived a lot
and
over the years.
I've known the England family for a long time. I guess probably Well, I think a lot about what it would take to generate political change.
Yeah.
Because I think the leadership has become the problem, not so much the solution anymore. And but also I think about the difficulty we have in our society of just I think this was prophesied in places like Matthew 24 that the hearts of men would grow cold, you know, and elsewhere that there would be people would sort of lose natural affection for one another, and I think this is it may be. I guess I don't want to just be apocalyptic because the apocalypse may be some time away, but I still think that there is so many things that are talked about in the Book of Mormon I see in our society today, and we need to. I think it needs to be studied more carefully by Latter-day Saints.
Probably so. Thank you, Rick.
I'm Walter. I've been really enjoying, like a challenge I've been, I guess, sometimes enjoying, is embracing, like, the situation I'm in. So, like, I do a lot of guiding and there's not a lot of stuff, so I'm not doing a lot of guiding, and I'm trying to embrace that there's other good things to do, and sometimes that means traveling.
That's true.
Yeah, and it's like, this is the season this year.
So tell them what you do in the winter normally.
So I do go occasionally dog sledding, but mainly snowmobile guiding.
No.
So I know Jay's been out with me before.
I've done not the snowmobile, but the dog.
Yeah. So yeah, it's fun. But I've also like, it's
but
like,
you don't have much snow.
I can go visit a friend up in Portland. Let's go. Yeah.
Make it.
And I'm like, it's 50 degrees.
Embracing.
Like, this is amazing. It's so yeah, just embracing the season that it is, and trying not to worry about it, and just like kind of that trust that things will be good and work out. So.
There's some wisdom in that. That's good. Thank you, everyone, for the sharing. This has been good. Just real quick, so I've just been kind of thinking about this group. You know, I come up with different things that it means. This is, you know, been going since 2013 summer. We've weathered, you know, the England's divorce, and there's a primary host that always had that, and then COVID, and here we are still. And it's thanks to good people like you that are willing to gather and talk about things I think that matter. These are just a few things I came up with. We create community through meaningful conversations. We gather because we are curious. We engage with compassion. I've heard a lot of compassion tonight, and I appreciate that. It's one thing that resonates with me, and I appreciate about you. We enjoy our commonality and our differences, and I think that's really valuable because we're not all the same, and that's by design, I think, and that's good. And we seek to love the world as it is and live as we want it to be, and pretty much all of you are good examples of that, and I appreciate that very much. So, Lynn, take it away.
Yeah, thank you. Wow, you're the perfect group. So many things that you talked about are issues that we were going to talk about anyway today. So.
Talk loud, Lynn. Sorry.
Yeah, am I loud enough?
Probably not.
Oh.
Put that in
Just
front.
a little. Yeah, I mean, we got to keep it somewhat central, Galen, so that people that comment can also
Then let's do
hear it. It
this.
picks up pretty good.
Is it cardioid or
Yeah.
is it everywhere right now?
It's everywhere.
Okay.
Well, anyway, I'm really grateful to be here, and I'm grateful that you're here. I got a lot of you are friends and people I've worked with. Walton and I are kayaking buddies all summer.
Yeah.
And Dave just happens to be my son.
I know.
And I love what
Just
Colleen.
happens to be.
Yeah. I love what Colleen said about finding a balance between sheer craziness and finding peace. And you're talking about taking leadership. I call it learner guided versus teacher guided. It's manager guided. Finding the right balance to enable people to take charge of their own programs, their own services, and so on. And finding sustainability, financial, that's always a challenge. I find that the best programs I run into tend to be very hungry. They need money. They need, they could do so much more, and maybe it's their hunger that keeps them being able to do what they do. But anyway, I'm thrilled to be here, and the advertisement that brought you here talked about a personal experience that I'm going to share with you, and that's on my mind, that experience, and it's illustrative of a lot of the issues that we've just mentioned. The broader theme, and I think you have a lot of great answers to this issue or question, is personal revelation, particularly in the context of trying to do something good in the world. And so this is as opposed to revelation that comes from the church or from the leaders of the church or something like that. Personal revelation is something that I believe that every person on this planet is engaged in, whether they're a member of the church or not. A lot of people don't realize that they are, but in some ways, personal revelation is something to do with solving problems or dealing with challenges or coping with difficulties, but at the same time, it is also, one of the most amazing, it is the way to discover yourself and what it is your life is about and what you can accomplish and the challenges that you can face and the things you can do, the difference that you can make. It answers the question of what are you going to do when you grow up? It's a process that we all engage in, and I'll return to that in just a minute, but I'm going to deal in three segments, a little bit of introduction and discussion in general about what personal revelation is about, to me at least, and how it might affect all of our lives and why it's so incredibly important, particularly in times of crisis, but always. Secondly, I'll share my story. It's a good story. It's an interesting one. It's not any better than any of the stories that each one of you have. And so the last part we're going to do is a dialogue process that will allow us to talk about what personal revelation really means to you. And I think I heard all sorts of hints of it in terms of identifying what you're going to do in your life and how you're going to make a difference and issues that you have to work through and excitement that you receive and blessings, if you will, that you receive as you respond to that. Personal revelation, let's talk a little bit about what it is and what it means. Many people think of this whole question of what is it I'm supposed to do in this life? What's my mission? What's my purpose? What's my calling in life? And many of you have found your callings in many ways, and it's an ongoing process that we go through of discovering who we are and how we can make a difference in the world. Not everybody thinks in those terms, but everybody tries to find, or maybe doesn't consciously, but could, and has the potential to find something bright and good and positive in their lives that they can do. And it's kind of a quest to find peace and find productivity all at the same time, to deal with challenges and problems, and to also find joy and satisfaction. It's a balancing act, really. And so I'm going to share with you my own experience of personal revelation, and then maybe you'll be able to share some of yours. But there are a whole lot of things that I guess the church, my parents had instilled within me, and I call that sort of generic revelation. That is, we care about families, however people might want to define them, but certainly spouses and significant others and partners and children and parents and grandparents and grandkids, and all of these relationships are really, really important to everybody. And so that's kind of everybody's mission, is to attend to your family in the way that makes your needs and is appropriate for your family. Another one is recognizing that there is a power greater than yourself. There's a goodness, there's God. Many people talk about Heavenly Mother, Heavenly Father, pray to God, be close to the Savior, be in alignment with the universe, follow the force, do good, look for good. So each one of us has a divine spark within us, something that makes us better, that allows us to get up in the morning and be excited about what we're doing, to be really engaged in life. And it's our quest to figure out what that is. My mother loved music. From the very youngest age, she talked her parents during the Depression into buying a piano, which I find really remarkable that they did it. And she was so determined. She had 5 sisters, and they all tell me the memory they have of her as a child was that she'd go out in the back behind their house, and there's a farm field next to some cows. She would sit with a chair, and these cows would gather, and she would teach them. So they remember that. She loved teaching music. It was her passion. Every one of us had to learn an instrument. We all had to sing. We all had to compete in road show or participate in road shows and quartet competitions and all sorts of things. Every day I came home from school, she was at the piano, and there was a student there, and she was teaching. She loved to teach music. That was her gift, and it became her passion and her mission. The word enthusiastic has 2 roots. One of them means inside, and theo is God within. And if there's something we're really excited about and passionate about and good, that's a kind of a secret message to you. Maybe it would be really great if I could do something for the world that involved what it is that's been my real gift, my passion. And so I view personal revelation as something that helps reveal to yourself who you are, where you want to go. When I was in high school, I'll mention one other person, my father, who didn't have a musical bone in his body, and he was an engineer, and he liked to make things. He liked to think through how things were designed and formed. The trial lake up in Uintas failed in a rainstorm, and there were 11 campers below that died. He was called in to find out what happened and to make sure that the dam was repaired in such a way that it would never happen again. I accompanied him on a lot of his trips, and he was so animated by the process of figuring out how much soil we're going to need to here, and what kind of gravel are we going to need there. He had a real gift for that and a real passion for it. And it touched lives, and it protected lives, and he brought safety and security and good buildings. And that was wonderful, and that was his mission. That was his calling. And it took him a while to figure that one out, but he did. And that's what I remember, him working in soil samples, my mother at the piano. They each found what their passion was, and they fulfilled it, and it served the world. When I was in high school, because of my father's employment, we moved from Salt Lake to California. And in my senior year, I was involved with speech and debate, and we had a tournament. And on Friday night, the bus left and went to the school where we were competing, and I couldn't go. I had to work, but I got permission to drive there in the morning. So I drove there, and this tournament was fine. At the end of the day, I had to drive home. And it was way out somewhere, I don't even remember where it was, in the LA area. And so I'm making my way home, and there's one stretch of freeway, and I don't remember which freeway it is, that takes me a lot closer. And this terrible fog came in. It was about 5 in the afternoon. It was in the winter, so it was starting to get dark. This fog came in, and I could only see 10 feet in front of me. I've never been in a fog before or since. It's that intense. I got on the road, and I started in the right direction, but I couldn't even see the signs. And I didn't know if I going so slow, if a car was going to ram into me, or if I go too fast, I was ram into a car, and I wanted to get off, and I was lost. So I got off and went down the ramp and got below the fog, and I rode I could see I was on some sort of main street of a small town, and I looked, and my reaction really startled me. To this day, it startles me what it was. Everything was in Spanish. I wasn't in Mexico, I knew that, but I didn't know where I was. but that touched something in my heart. I got so, wow, I'm in Disneyland. This is amazing. Everything's in Spanish. It's like Mexico, but it's not Mexico. And I stopped and looked at these stores, and they're all empty. It was nighttime. It was all closed down. The whole town was asleep, but it was all in Spanish. I don't know what this place is, but I want to come here again and again. And I'd ask my friends, hey, why don't we go to East LA? That's where I was. I said, let's go to East LA and hang out. And they, what? Are you nuts? But it revealed something to me. I loved everything foreign in this culture, and I wanted to be part of it. I said, boy, I'm going to go on a mission, and I'm going to go to South America for sure. I know it. I'm going to speak Spanish. And I'm going to join the Peace Corps, and I'm going to go to South America, and I'm going to teach people. I'm going to live in these cultures. I'm going to love it. It's going to be great. And so I graduated from high school, and I went to a year of college, and then I had my mission call. I opened it, and I said, sure, it's going to be South or Central America. And I opened, and it said Southern Far East Mission. You'll be going to Taiwan and learning to speak Mandarin. For a second, I was just dazed. What is Taiwan? I had no idea. And then all of a sudden, it just hit me. It just rolled over my heart. Wow, this is wonderful. I got the whole world I'm going to. And so I really love other cultures and other languages. And so I had a great time in Taiwan. And then I had another moment of revelation. And I liked taking pictures. And I took pictures of some of the other missionaries in my district who were in a park and talking to people. And they're really nice pictures and had this really great feeling. It's how I felt about being there. I just loved it. I was so happy. I thought I never want to go back home. I just love this place. And so I, back then, there were film strips. They're not PowerPoints. And I put it to music, and I showed it to our district, and it was really pleasant. It was really nice. Everyone really liked it. It kind of fires you up. We called it full-time focus. So when you're getting all discouraged and down and getting distracted, focus on what you're doing here and just love it and enjoy it. And the zone leader was there, and he said, hey, you ought to show this at the zone meeting. So I did. The mission president was there, and he's based in Hong Kong, and I was in Taiwan. He loved it. 2 weeks later, I get a telegram, because we didn't have phones, and the telegram said, pack your bags, you're coming to Hong Kong, you're going to make film strips for the church. And I said, what? And so I went there, and these film strips were because everything the church had available in terms of audiovisual messages had Wasatch Front white people. Yeah. And so you're going to make Chinese film strips and show Chinese people. So I got this assignment. The mission home was this great big mansion, beautiful site in Hong Kong. It is now the temple. They destroyed it, but it had a swimming pool, which wasn't much good for missionaries. But they covered it up, and as I walk into the swimming pool, into the deep end, that was my studio. It was on a slight slant. So I didn't have a companion, and I'm in this dark studio with no windows, and it's kind of a challenge. I created. The mission president said, you'll just be here for 2 weeks. We'll knock this out. Well, 2 months later, we finished it. And he said, hey, I want to do 3 more. And so you're here. And then they split the mission. So I couldn't go back to Taiwan. And I couldn't speak Cantonese, which is the language there. And it was really hard. And something else that was even more significant called the Great Cultural Revolution. And it took place, Chairman Mao had militarily taken all of China, and Chiang Kai-shek had moved the nationalists to Taiwan, and people were still poor and hungry. And so he came up with the Great Cultural Revolution to say the reason you're still hungry, even though we're now in power, is that there are a lot of people that aren't thinking right in your communities. And so they got an army of missionary-aged young people, and they formed the Red Guard. And they went from village to village and held these terrible trials, and usually somebody got stoned to death, and that was to solve the problem. So it was blaming somebody for all of our problems. And needless to say, like there is now, we're talking about ICE, there was just so much fear and terror that people were fleeing China to come to Hong Kong at great danger, in huge numbers, tens of thousands of them. There's a river that you cross, the Zhangchun River, I believe it is, to get it from mainland China into Hong Kong. And they had towers and guns and machine guns, and people would get shot as they tried to climb these towers and the high barbed wire and swim across. And the bodies would come into Hong Kong Harbor, and there was a newspaper keeping account of how many bodies had come in that summer. It was something like 2,500. For every body, there was probably 100 people who didn't die and who made it to Hong Kong. And the place was crowded in the first place, but now it's so full of refugees. Everywhere you looked, there was cardboard boxes and shacks and shanties. They built these resettlements, they called them, which are tall buildings, and you have a room maybe the size of this whole area here, a square room. 60 people would live in that room, and there was a bathroom down the way. And it was just, there's so much suffering and so much anxiety and so much tension going on in the city. I just said, well, that's what we do. I wasn't processing what I was feeling, but it was getting to me every day. And finally it hit me in one moment that I have never, ever forgotten, a moment of great revelation to me. I was in Mongok, which had the dubious reputation. It's the most crowded square mile in the whole world, which it is. And I had to drop off some film or something from the film strips. I'm in this crowd of people. They're shoulder to shoulder, all moving like a rushing river. You know, you can't stop. I'm working my way through the crowd to get to where the store is. And as I'm going along, I bump into something. It was a box about the size of what you'd have say a washing machine. And as I was pushed into this box, I looked in, and in the box was a girl, a young girl about, 16 or 17, sitting there just so despondent, blood coming from her mouth, and she's holding a baby that I'm sure was dead. And she just stared at me, and for 2 or 3 seconds, which I have never forgotten for the rest of my life, she looked at me, and it was as though her eyes were saying, help. And it was just this jolt. It was everything I'd experienced in the last year, all coming together in one flash. The crowd pushed me on, and I never saw her again. I assume they died. But I've seen her just about every day of my life since then. And something that came into my heart so strong is, this is wrong. I never want to see another person in a box like this and not do something. And suddenly it created such a desire in me to learn whatever I could to help all over the world because of all these cultures and languages that were inside of me. I knew very clearly what I wanted to do with my life at that moment. And so the rest of my life professionally became a quest to learn, how do you help people in need? And it's not as simple as you might think. It isn't just giving them money or giving them stuff. Quite often I find that in programs I've worked with where you give them a house or you give them cash or you give them food or rice or whatever, the message they get is, oh, when a white foreigner comes, they'll give me stuff, and that's the answer to my solution is keep finding white foreigners. And I can't do anything. That's the real message. Someone else can help me, but I can't do anything. Empowering people, enabling them to find their own solutions is a great concept. It's wonderful when it happens, but it's hard. There's a real magic to it. There's a real balance, a science to it. So I pursued that quest, I guess, the rest of my professional life, and here we are 55 plus years later. What did happen was my brother and I formed a foundation, a nonprofit called Interweave Solutions in 2007. I worked for an organization called Pro Literacy, and I've worked in about 65 different countries and in many, many languages. We created these 2 manuals. This is called Success in Business. If you get an MBA, Master's of Business Administration, it'll cost you $100,000 plus for sure, and 3 or 4 intense years of study, and you'll learn thousands of concepts. This teaches the same concepts, how to make a business work, but there's only 6. The 6 P's of business. It's for people that can't read and write. It's for people for whom there are no jobs available. It's for people who are necessity entrepreneurs and they're starving otherwise. And it works. It's very powerful. It's very user-friendly, and we teach facilitators how to implement it with their clients. So in 2018, I was thinking about retirement. I thought, what's retirement mean? I guess it was Social Security. That's about all I could think of. because I wanted to keep doing this. I love it. I said, but I'll do it slower. I'll slow down. And so my thought was, well, normally an organization I work with, in order for them to even use this, they need to get themselves really organized before I come. They're going to have to get teachers lined up. They're going to structure things and change their agenda to match this. And so I thought, well, if I sort of market less, recruit less, it'll just slow me down. So I had a call, and they said, we've heard about what you're doing. We want you to come to the Philippines and help us. Oh, sure, that'd be great. You need to do this, get teachers and get money for this, set this up. We'll have a training. I need 35 of your brightest and best who are going to be the teachers we're going to train. And so normally after I give that little spiel, there's just silence. Yeah, we'll get back to you. We can't do all that. And if they're really sincere and serious about it, they will eventually. It might be 2 years later before I'm there in the country. And as soon as I said all that, the person is, okay, yeah, can you come in 3 weeks? I said, no, you have to do this. And, yeah, no, we've done all that. Can you come in 3 weeks? Yeah, okay. And then I got the most training trips I'd ever done in a whole year was 6. And that's a lot. It's very demanding. That year, 2019, I did 10 when I was slowing down.
And at what age?
70-something.
It's back and forth 10 times.
Yeah, well, to different
From Utah
places,
to
in
Philippines.
Africa or in the Philippines or India or wherever. And so I thought, whoa. And then I said, okay. And the revelation I got that I prayed about just came into my heart. The words were this: if they're ready and they say they need me, say yes. And we'll figure out how later. And that's pretty scary. But it wasn't. It felt right. It felt so... I said, I can do this. And suddenly I was re-energized with new power. I'm working a whole lot harder than I did when I was being paid. And it's working. The other challenge that came up, it turned out to be a real blessing, and that was COVID. So 2020 was the year when I was ready to do 1 a month, and I couldn't do any. Couldn't leave the country. So my daughter-in-law approached me, and she had been using we use a sort of dialogue technique, which I'm going to show you in just a bit. And she had used some of the lessons that we had as group therapy. She's a professional counselor. And she said, if we could create a manual that used the same technique, only talk about wellness, talk about depression and anger and anxiety and substance abuse and domestic violence and all these things, that would be very powerful. So we call this manual, rather than earning your MBA, you earn your MBS, Masters of Business in the Streets. In here, we have counseling in the streets. And what it is you have locations where there are tremendous stress, tremendous difficulties, and all the things you're talking about with ICE right now. What all this is, knowing you don't have to have a lot of professional training, is just, let's have a discussion. We'll look at a story about someone who's dealing with anxiety. We'll look at a picture, and we'll just say, what happened in that picture? How did that person feel? Have we ever had experiences where we felt like that? Yeah, and pretty soon people are not talking about that story, they're talking about their own story. And when people start telling their own story, it is amazing therapy. And so it's just groups of people telling their own story and where their hearts are. And it's really powerful. It's very user-friendly. And so we had these 2 tools, and then I started going crazy. With these 2 tools, we created something we call the Impact Program. And let's take a look at the slides here just a second. It's for people who can't read and write. Let's see,
Okay.
It includes literacy materials, often in their native language, like there's Lingala and Swahili and Acholi and Seltal and Tzotzil, stories that they tell from their own lives. They learn to read and write about their own lives. And then they learn how to start a business, so there's success in business, and then counseling in the streets. We began seeking out organizations that have big networks, informal networks of what I call grandmothers groups. They are groups of neighbors who live close to each other, who are teaching each other how to read and write already. They are already helping each other, and they talk about living a Christ-like Zion existence. They help each other. They care about each other. They're dirt poor. And so there's an organization that's called the Kenya Adult Learners Association, which I had known for years. I said, what if we really hit the whole country with this process using your network? And so you can see, since from 2022, in what we call phase 4, the fourth phase, first phase is we do a lot of training of facilitators. They become impact ambassadors. Each impact ambassador, on average, will form or support a group of maybe 1 and 1.2. So there were, in their case, it was 350 impact ambassadors formed 420 groups, and typically a group would have 10 or 20. In their case, they had 5,000 graduates who these 350 impact ambassadors ran the program and kept training them. And I thought, wow, that cost us 4 trips to Kenya, and we trained a master trainer in Kenya who now continues to operate on their own. And in phase 4, we helped the NGO form a business that will help fund their continuing growth and activity. So they're financially self-sustaining and don't have to rely on the government or donors. Doesn't mean they stop fundraising, it just means they have a source of income. These are a few of those groups. They're very informal, meeting under trees or in houses or all over the place. And there's no salary involved. It's people caring about ministering to their neighbors. And it's very, very powerful and self-sustaining. So we did the same thing in Ethiopia, and they've also started a business. The business in Kenya was let me show that back. It's called Kala Flame. Kenya Adult Learners Association is Kala. Flame is propane fire to cook in your home. So they sold basically subscriptions that will come and replace our little canister of propane every 2 weeks, and you can cook with it. The business in Ethiopia was a printing business, and they print manuals, they print books, and that helps to sustain their work. But they have 180 impact ambassadors and 210 groups and 2,200 graduates. In Liberia, we did it again, and it took off. You can see some of the numbers there, very similar.
There's Lynn.
There's Lynn, yeah. Yeah, we would do those trainings, and there's something really wonderful about the trainings. I'll show you in just a moment. But they formed, as soon as we trained them, they would form their own groups. And these groups are very powerful, they're very local, they're full of energy. They come up with their own solutions. Usually beyond teaching business and wellness, they do something else, some way to minister, talk about human rights, or form a little informal clinic, or food cooperatives, or all kinds of things that they come up with. We began in India last year, and they got very excited and translated our wellness manual into Tamil, and then they got excited about the business manual, and come April we'll be doing a big launch in India. This one more recently in Zimbabwe, they've gone through all the phases, and now they're ready to start their own business to help support what they're doing. In Malawi and Zambia, the same. We've just started phase 1 in South Africa just in November, the training with the phase 1. In Uganda in December, and 2 weeks ago in Angola. Next week I'll be in Lesotho. In South Africa after that, back again, and then in India and Uganda. My answer, it really is important that I needed to have that answer. Just say yes, because somehow the money has come through, just barely, and we're always going to be hungry, but have enough. It's kind of like manna for today's meal to do the next training. And these groups are very powerful and very self-sustaining. And what empowerment means for them something I'd like to show you in a couple of different ways. This one, I know at the end of the training that we've really reached our point when this happens. This happens spontaneously. It's like living in a Broadway musical. When that happens, and they describe what they're going to do, these are some of the places we're going and the cost of doing that. I have this feeling, and it's a moment I get quiet and kind of tear-filled. Usually they're singing and dancing at that point. They've all got these businesses they're going to start, these plans in place. They're ready to take over the world, and they're going to form groups, and they do. And I kind of choke up, and I think, this thought comes to my mind, this is the measure of your creation. This is the answer to what it is I'm supposed to do. And now, remember the woman in the box? This just happened after I agreed to come here tonight. And see the girl there in the bottom is Adita? She is in Uganda. She lives in a place called Fort Portal. And when when her mother was pregnant with her, her father had beaten the mother and said, this baby, I'm not going to support you, and he left. The mother blamed Adita for losing the source of food and support, and so the mother was very abusive to Adita. In fact, so badly, when she turned 13, Adita, I don't know what she'd done that was wrong, but her mother wasn't happy, and she locked her into an outhouse. She had a chain on the door, and she left her without food for 2 weeks. Her brother, who is also, her younger brother, who also was not welcome into the home, snuck out and he broke a little hole and he would sneak food into her, and finally figured out how to break the lock, and they ran away. They both lived in the streets after that at age 12. At age 13, well, when she was 12, what she found was there was a woman who was selling porridge to construction workers. And the woman said, okay, I'll show you how to do this, and you can sell porridge. Well, one of the construction workers thought she was pretty, and at age 13 she was pregnant. And she had the baby and still selling porridge, and had no idea what she was going to do to even survive. She became so discouraged, so hungry, and so tired, and felt like such a failure and so lost. Now think about all the challenges you're facing. Hers was, I can't go on with this life anymore. So Adita decided, she got a hold of some poison, she was going to kill herself, and she lived in a box. And at the moment she had made the decision, tonight's the night, it hit her because her baby started to laugh and giggle and grabbed her finger. And she said, my goodness, I'm doing something worse to her than what my mother did to me. I can't do this. She didn't believe in God, because she said, life is too harsh. There can't be a God that would allow life to be this hard. But she believed in the love of that little girl. She said, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to make this work. You know, you and me, daughter, we're going to make it. And she did. Her story is so interesting because she found a shelter where other young girls, I didn't know how many street girls there are that have babies or are pregnant or just on their own. And they became her family, these other girls, and they kind of helped raise each other's babies. And this shelter would let them hang out sometimes. She ended up being very interested in what the shelter offered and said, you know, you need help for these girls that are having babies, and the babies need medical help. And she said, I want to learn. I want to be a doctor. And what? You know, you have to go to school. Well, she was 22 at that point, and she went, the only school she could get, she had to go into a school with, kids. And so she sat in the class and she became their mascot. She was, they liked her to be there, but she graduated from high school in a regular high school. And then she said, no, I want to do more. She got nurses training. She is now a professional midwife. She works in an army hospital, which is really just a MASH tent. But and the way the foster care system works there is that she finds out the mother's drunk. She goes, if the mother's passed out or she's not home, she'll take the baby home and sleep with the baby. She's always got babies in her bed. And it's finding another place for them to go. It's all, her home is just this mud shack, mud and manure. If it rains, you got to go patch it up a little bit. And she is so excited about her life and about what she's doing and all that she's learned. She is empowered to change the world. And she knows she'll keep learning more. She says she wants to be a doctor someday. I'm sure she will. So,
And you just found that her the last few weeks when you were there.
yes.
Story. Wow.
In
That's
fact,
It's not, you're not saying it's the same girl, but it's a similar story. Or you're saying it's the
Yeah,
same
it
story.
is the same girl.
Oh, that's crazy.
Is
Wait a minute,
the one
no.
in Hong Kong?
Yeah, that first was in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
The first one died.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
So I told
Yeah.
Aditya
But
this story, my Hong Kong story,
Yeah.
and she said, well, you didn't help me out of this box. I was out before you ever came. It was my daughter. It was me. It was God that helped me out of the box. She said, but what you have, I can share with all these girls, and they formed a little foundation they call Girls of Hope. It's all these girls just taking care of each other. And she said, you're not going to get me out of the box. I got out myself. But with what you've got to share with me, these tools I can use, I can help a whole lot of other girls out of the box. So we're going to look, if I can find it. I've got a folder laying around in our chaos of setting up. It's a manila folder with a bunch of pictures of Aditya here. Oh, perfect. All right. There's a dialogue process that we use in his manuals. And let me just pass these out. It begins with a picture and a story. There's a guy named Paulo Freire. I don't know if some of you have heard of Paulo Freire. He talked about in education, literacy education, you begin with a code. A code is a picture, a story, an object, a song, something that reflects reality of the lives of the participants. This is our code tonight. This picture of Aditya. So, you heard my story. She lived in a box, and now she's a midwife. So what do you see in this picture?
I see confidence, I see academic focus, I see socialization,
Yeah.
teaching, learning, discussion.
Yeah, that isn't the girl that was with her in the box. She's since married and it didn't work out too good, but she's got a daughter, a couple of daughters she's raised. All right, confidence. What else? She's academic involvement.
Love, she loves her daughter.
Uh-huh. Anything else? Any other feelings, emotions that she's expressing?
Leadership, confidence.
Yeah. All right,
She
leadership.
looks happy.
She looks happy. All right, good. Yes?
Purpose.
Purpose. Yeah. Okay, have you ever had an experience when you felt like that? Or does this picture make anything come to mind of an experience you've had or a feeling you've had anywhere? Yes.
When I used to teach at Salt Lake Community College, I had a kid who hit rock bottom with a group of friends who were just into the drug scene, and I don't remember the whole situation, but they were, you know, living illegally or living in a sleazy, icky hotel on North Temple at the time, and just like he hit rock bottom there, and I don't remember how he got his act together, but he wanted to go home and everything and just turn his life around because he almost died, and he did actually, and he went back to school and started his life again, and he 2 years later he sent me a note that he'd finished his master's in social work, and he was really empowered to go out and do this.
Wow.
And it was awesome.
Wow. Wow. Great. Thank you. Any other experiences or thoughts or
Well,
time?
my thought is, where did this energy come from for her to go from the before and after scenario that you shared with us? Because when I look at this, you know, with my LDS missionary background, I see her teaching the gospel.
Yeah.
Now, nothing that you said expressly has been Mormonism or even Christianity necessarily, or absolutely, but it's certainly along the principles taught by Jesus.
Yeah. You know those women dancing? The reason I'm tear-filled is because they found out that they can do something. They can make something happen. They can change their lives. And maybe, well, many of them do say, God sent us here to do this. They're very open about that. They'll sing hymns. They'll stop me and say, we haven't had a prayer yet, you know, for the afternoon session. And I think they can't read and write. They live in a place that's nowhere near where there's a church. And yet here they are gathering as Zion, I think. Gathering with love, unfeigned, with support, ministry. They've got the gospel down really good. And I can feel that power that's in them. Yes.
Lynn, how did you communicate with them? I assume that you don't speak languages other than English and maybe some Mandarin.
Yeah.
And their languages are their native local languages only. Perhaps
Well, one of the
scattered
things,
English.
one of the reasons I got so interested in his DTech, because now I have a plan wherever I go. I had another slide that showed Mercy, and she's in South Africa. I look for locals who can become teachers, and that they speak English and they can translate for me. So there's always a translator. And, you know, rather than an A+ presentation, I'm doing an A- or a B+ because something gets lost in translation. It's still good enough. And we still have that moment where they sing and dance. Mm-hmm. And the message I'm getting is, we're going to go somewhere. We're going to make something happen. My heart has been touched. I can change my life. I can feed my kids. I can make the world a better place. I can make a difference. And that, yeah.
Oh, I thought you were disappointed that you were quitting, but I look at this and Chris and I have had the privilege of being involved in some councils that he promoted, okay, where we would go and help facilitate groups of neighbors or groups of families. There were kind of family home evenings among the Zimbabweans. And it was amazing, the process that he has envisioned and promoted is just magic, okay? It's just magic. You get in there and these people solve their own problems and you just stand back and watch it, and it's like, it's amazing, okay? And it's totally the opposite of the white man's burden coming in and telling them what to do, you know? It's like you set up a system where they can help themselves. And I see that when I see these groups on the paper. I see these guys are solving their own problems, okay? And it's a beautiful system, and I'm really blessed to have been involved with seeing it firsthand.
Yeah. My brother Dean, his take on all this is a little different than mine, and it's equally powerful, but it's just different. And his take on it is, I could reach so many more people through media, through online. So we have, this course is available online, and we've had 50,000 in the last graduates, people from all over the world that take the course. The problem with that for me is you got to be able to read and write to be able to take the course online, and you got to be in some place where you have access to a smartphone and where you have access to good internet. And there's hundreds of billions of people who don't. And frankly, more of them are women than men, because around about second grade, the parents say, you got to come and help take care of the rest of the kids, and they don't get to finish school.
I am surprised how much the internet is more available in places like Guatemala than it was even 6 years ago.
Yeah, and it's growing.
It is
it's getting
growing.
better.
But the socialization is a part of it. And
Right.
if you're just one person on a computer, it's not the same
Right.
as having a group of 10 women who support each other.
Yeah.
So they
Yes.
both matter.
Yeah, they're both fine. They're both great.
I'm wondering about her brother. What happened to him?
Well, I asked her about her brother. She said he's around, and he's got a work that he's going to. He hasn't done quite as well as her, but on the other hand, he's done it. You know, he's reached out. What was so interesting about her story is, and I think this is God, but it's just a baby. That's what really saved her. Something touched her soul in that child and gave her the turnaround. You know, I think it's all a miracle to me. And when I see these people dancing together and singing and doing like Ed was talking about, helping each other and identifying their problems and all these goals they're going to do. You know, life, I suppose, if where you're in celestial kingdom up here and master's degree over here or whatever, they keep going up the staircase, and they start at a very low place. But I've never learned anything. I've never graduated from anything. I've never done anything. No one's ever asked me to do anything, and nobody's ever thought I could. Nobody cared about my opinion. And they move up 10 steps, and some of the others are starting at step 10, and they move up another 10 themselves, and they become the leaders. And what a great process. I have a feeling, I've worked a lot with the church with this program, and it requires the church to get organized and do things a little differently than they normally do, which is kind of hard. And so I've thought about this a lot. I believe that we're gathering Israel, for sure. It's just it's not in the church right now. And the church is changing as fast as it can. I'm just so impressed with all the changes and developments. But and you reflect what I'm about to say, is that I've noticed a lot of people who have said, I don't know, I went to Sudan and I loved it and I fell in love, and the next thing you know, we formed an NGO that, there's one called GEMS, which is Goats Education and Money. I don't know what it stands for, but and they suddenly devote their lives to it. And I've seen it happen in all sorts of people from here. Salt Lake said, this, I don't know what it is, but I love this language, I love this place, I love these people, and they devote their lives to it. And I hear a lot of you who started things and done things and just feel inspired to make the world a better place. And I think there's an operator in heaven that's putting it all together. These puzzle pieces will fit together at some point. And I guess they do too, yeah.
Was one of the ideas that, like, we look at this and say, like, how does that reflect, like, think about our own stories of.
That's right. Some of your answers, I mean, a lot of you are into, humanitarian service that you're doing. But I thought about what could some of the answers to that question be, and it might be, wow, I was discouraged, but I overcame, or this reminds me of my brother, or he quit drinking, or how do I help people? Maybe there's an answer, or yeah.
So it made me think of, like, empowering. So I was working with some youth that had, both of them had been adopted, and so we're off trying to climb a mountain, and they were both told they could just stay back, and everyone else would go climb the mountain. And these kids like to play a lot of video games and sit around and watch TV and stuff, but no one gave me the memo that was like they were gonna just stay back. So I was like, really? Like, you guys can do this? And so, like, we worked on, like, how to hike, like, hike 10 feet and then flop down and lay on the ground saying that you're tired. Instead, you could like maybe lock your knees and take a couple breaths and then keep going. And so like eventually we got to the mountaintop and they were like so proud of themselves. And I didn't think anything of it because I'm like, well, they just needed to learn how to hike. But like really you end up like empowering. So it reflected, when I looked at her, I'm like seeing her empower other people because she's in like 3 of the pictures doing that. She's empowering other people. It made me reflect like, how can I do that more in my life? And in what way? In like just feeling blessed with the skills where people have empowered me in groups to be able to do that.
Well, Walt and I have spent a lot of time together driving to kayaking locations, and he shared with me his wilderness experience, the very unique way that you empower people. I mean, how many experiences you've told me about, oh, they were afraid of the horses, or they're afraid of the dogs, or, you know, the whole thing, and in his very unique way, he's able to empower people. Everybody's got a different gift. Everybody's got a different calling in some way that we fit in. And some of us aren't working in big groups of people. There aren't thousands of people. It's just maybe a family member you're working with who really, maybe just yourself. That's okay, whatever it is. And that connection with God, with light, with enthusiasm, helps tell you what it is that you love, what it is you do, and where you're strong, and guides you to be better, to be more your better self.
Well, I think to come back to personal relation where you started, it can be such a loaded term, at least for I think LDS people.
Right.
I don't know how it sits in Christianity in the larger scheme of things, but you gave lots of examples of that you know you wouldn't normally hear like in a LDS Sunday school class or something. And that's my experience, you know, over the years, particularly the last part of my life, 10, 15 years, is that's how personal relation is it comes in lots of different ways, even for one person like me.
Yes.
That and there's times it comes and I'm not even looking for it, I'm not aware of it. It's like, how did you put me here at this time? Because I wasn't looking for this. And this person I encountered goes, you know, you're here, I needed you here. You know, I just wrote in my journal, I need a friend, right? You know, and 5 minutes later, I just wander there in his path. You know, and I don't see this person very often. And it's just like, I mean, I didn't hear a prompting. There was nothing. It was just,
You're there?
running my dog in the morning. You know.
Well, that's
And it's fascinating to me. You know, you can be very unaware, and God can still, however that works. And I have no idea.
Well, I think it's this very complex. I mean, it's this whole mix of maybe you had a bad experience. Well, like Adita, for her, she didn't believe there was God because life was too dark. But something told her there's love, and she believes in God now. She says, "Oh, God sent me this and did this. All these trials I had that I thought were how could you punish me, have turned out to give me the insight that I need to do what I'm doing." And that's revelation too. Sometimes our struggles are revelation. Sometimes it's a song, or it's a hike. It's a beautiful breeze, and the snow on the top of the mountain is
A horrific view in a box.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of symbolic to me that this woman who lived in a box got out, and I didn't do it. She went, "You didn't do this. I did it." You know, okay.
And that's what you want.
That's
what
what
you're
I
hoping
want.
for. Yeah.
That's kind of the lesson. And I think of Jay and all of these gatherings we have. There's a lot of work to just get one of us to come and show up and get organized and show up at a time and get everybody and get the word out. And you do it about once a month, it looks like. And it's touched a lot of lives. And it's been something probably far more and more intricate than you ever imagined. And it's powerful. Yeah.
That wasn't something I was looking for. So.
Yeah.
Well, I think our moment, like your box moment, was we went to Guatemala to pick up our son from his mission, and he took us around, and we met lots of people that he knew. And we went to this place where there were multiple generations of a family and siblings and a group of 50 people that all lived on this kind of, I don't know, group of houses. And they had a soccer field in the middle, right? And he was the first branch president, and his son is branch president, and they're a really beautiful family. And while we were there, I'm not even sure how she communicated with you, but the grandma said,
Adam translated it.
okay, so she said, choose one of my granddaughters and take her home with you so that she can have a better life than what we can provide.
Yeah.
Wow.
And this was a remarkably beautiful family full of love. And the grandma's saying, take my kid. And she'll work for you, right? She'll clean your house. Like, that's,
Wow.
and so we didn't do that. But we ended up, my son married a girl from, a woman from Guatemala who had a dirt floor house. And so it's been done in a different way, but it started us down a path of 8 years of Leahona, bountiful children, which is how we met, and then the inner city mission with Latinos and having a group of Guatemalans that are now in our family, that have a different life than they would have had otherwise. And so it's kind of interesting how those moments happen, and you don't necessarily have an answer at the moment. You
Right.
kept going.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, we can't do that. I mean, that's an impossibility because I don't even know how you do the paperwork. I mean, it just wasn't something that made any sense, but it was an opening. And I think those openings happen multiple times in our lives. And if we let it resonate like you did, you saw her every day, that first one, every day,
Yeah.
the ideas will come.
They do, yeah. And so it comes, I mean, it's not necessarily the answer to prayer or a prayer, but there's probably a lot of prayer that went along. It's a process, I guess. I'm going to pick on my son, Dave. I had, in my mind, I thought, well, as a father, I'm going to create this little clone of what I. So he went with me to Nepal and where else? We went to Thailand, right?
Mexico, Thailand.
Yeah. And you actually worked for Community Action, and he found, like every other human institution in the world, there are a lot of contradictions and things that didn't work out well, and so he's found a way to do his mission that is quite different than mine, and yet in the same spirit. I don't know. You have any thoughts on that, Dave? I know.
Yeah, so I was always sort of the black sheep of the family, and I loved business. So sort of business when I was really young and stuff. When I lived in upstate New York with Dad, worked for pro literacy, and so I was always looking for a way to sort of mesh it. So Dean and I, his brother, were business partners together, and so that was at the start of the forming of Interweave. And so Dean and I would talk about what could we use to be able to get business stuff, to be able to help, impoverished communities. And so we started having meetings with Dad and Dean and myself, and that was sort of the start of Interweave. And but it was fascinating because our first endeavors were setting up a water purification company in Uganda. Sparkles, and then early on then the church sort of sent us, as the curriculum was getting going, sent us to Zimbabwe, and the social business we set up there in Zimbabwe was basically a high school, and that was after the collapse of the Zimbabwean economy under Mugabe, and so we had just a really young 23-year-old bishop there in Harare that started a small high school called O.B. Wise Academy from the Book of Mormon. O.B. Wise, what Mormon is. So, but all of the schools, all the teachers, there's a massive brain drain, and everyone had left to South Africa because the economy had failed. But it was a great way to be able to tie in business and philanthropy and sort of blend the two together.
Yeah,
So
and
it's
a lot of the concepts, these simple concepts, it's really hard to get complex business ideas down to 6 P's. But David was the guide in a lot of that. And he's the one, you were the one that, he was the matchmaker that got these two brothers that don't always get along together and work together.
That's great.
Um,
So it is a key part of it.
yeah, yeah.
Lynn, if you hadn't done this, who would have emerged to do it? Would the society just be lacking in the thing that we're talking about? Or would there be a government? Would there be a social program? Would there be a church? Would there be my church? Would there be somebody else's church that would emerge to accomplish some, all part of the tasks that you have described?
Well, I don't know, but it sure isn't me by myself. So I'm thinking of Adita's answer, hey, I got out of that box. You didn't take me out. And there's a whole lot of people out here who really care, and they're just waiting to be inspired at every level. People that can't read, and so I think there's just a lot more people that are going to be prepared to do the kinds of things that all of you are doing and find ways to make a difference. So I don't know what would happen if you hadn't been around. That's a tough question to ask. Yeah.
You know, there are ripples for what you've done throughout the world. You know, we taught the 6 P's to a group in India that I'm sure they went out and stole all your ideas and spread them. I mean, it's amazing. So everything that you've done, you know, related to, you know, business. My daughter and I were in Haiti with Healing Hands for Haiti. We were on a beach, and we met this young lady that was the great-granddaughter of someone who started 10 communities where they had schools, they had medical care, they had everything they needed. And when people graduated from school, there was no work. And she says, I think my grandmother failed because these guys end up going through these full systems and there's no businesses to I came home from that, and that's when I met you guys the first time. I go, whoa, you've got the answer. It's teach them how to start their own businesses, okay? And so I think you have influenced people way more than you can even imagine, you know. It just ripples.
But
not just the people you've done work with, but it just ripples out.
And it was, I mean, and it was David, and it was my brother Dean, and it was you, and everybody. We do our part, and it influences. You know, we all send ripples out to each other, and it's very powerful. And I do believe it's just beginning. You know, our 10,000 or 50 is a drop in the bucket to the hundreds of millions, but I believe that God has a plan for them, and there's got to be all sorts of Aditas all over the world who are just waiting for the right moment. And a lot of that's going to happen in spite of us, or, you know, and so it's...
Hey, Galen, would you mind sharing your thoughts? You've done some remarkable stuff in this sphere of humanitarian. What are you thinking, if you don't mind?
I don't mind. The thing I keep thinking about as I look at Adita and what she's doing in these pictures is only an element of what's happening here, but structure. And I like the 4-way, that is the 4 steps of establishing momentum in a complex organization of strategy, structure, process, tools. And, you know, oftentimes, especially in my engineering background, I'm a computer scientist, and it's really tempting to just jump straight to a tool, straight to a diagram, straight to and with all of the structure and tools and process that I can create, I'm just reflecting, am I using my skills in the most leveraged way? 2 examples. In establishing better mental health in a corporation, it must start in culture. It must start with a group of individuals, preferably the leaders, who say, as for our house, we're going to be more open. We're going to be able to tell each other bad news. We're going to be able to relate to each other, to lift each other. And then, with that strategy of connection, of genuine human connection, then some structure starts to evolve from it. One of my gifts is being able to see patterns. And I'm wondering, have I created the right structures? Are there better ones that I can create? If I take a step back, where can I simplify? How do I change so that the impact can be greater? It's tempting. It's really tempting to feel comfortable writing a line of code or fixing a bug, or thinking, if we just sell to one more client, it's going to be better. But my quest for sustainability demands that I look beyond what I can currently see.
I expect great things in 2 years from now. Really. Our time is up. I have one last thing I want you to do, and maybe you can just share this. As a result of this conversation, what is something, and this could be a new attitude or a new thought, or I'm going to think this through, or I'm going to be friendlier to my wife, or whatever. What's something that this conversation invites you to do? What's something that comes to mind? Yeah.
One thought I've had for a long time is that the progress of any society really can be best measured by how well it cultivates the gifts of each of its citizens. But seeing the gifts and the good, just seeing the gifts in people, recognizing those gifts, which is part of our process of, finding our purpose in life, and recognizing those in others would, I think, do much to dissuade people from bias and racism and xenophobia and all these other ills of which I think are satanic in origin. Recognizing that everybody has gifts, everybody has something to contribute, regardless of their physical condition, their evident disabilities or whatever. Seeing that everyone has something to contribute would go a long way to causing societal progression. It's the tendency to only judge by the superficial, or to see each person as part of a focus group or a little enclave or whatever. This is the source of our fragmentation in society.
It's powerful. Yeah.
So I'm in a class at the Living School with Richard Rohr, and
Oh, you lucky.
it's so great. And they use this quote from Archimedes that said, and this reminds me of this, what you're talking about, give me a lever and a place to stand and I will move the world. And so they talk to us a lot about what is our place to stand and our lever. And I work in democracy reform, and I meet regularly with people throughout the country. And I felt like this was my place because I have, in different times throughout my life, I've been guided into politics and stuff. But I've been so discouraged the last year of watching the structures and the systems and the rule of law and things that have kept our country going being dismantled, and people just not caring. And so I've been super discouraged about, I gotta get out of this, I can't do this anymore. And I still feel that way, but what this has done for me is given me some hope that God is still up there, and there's still little things that can happen, and there's little ways, and that, whether I'm doing this again next week, I hope not, that there will be something that I can do, because I want to, and I want to make a difference. And even though right now I feel like it's completely a failure, and what we're doing right now is not working, but there will be something. And so it gives me hope to think, okay, there's something that I can do to help.
That's great. Thank you. Any other thoughts?
I'll share one. I wear a lot of hats. Among the many is I rent rooms in my house to off-campus students. And because my space is limited, I often advertise to international students. So right now I have a student from Iran, Russia, and Japan in my house. And in part, I do that because I want to learn about their cultures. It's a surrogate for me not flying there. I can at least meet them on American soil and learn something about their home and what the factors were that led them to come here.
That's cool. That is cool.
It's not as good as going there, but it's a fairly good substitute to learn about their lives that led them here.
That's wonderful. Definitely. Yes.
Is it
Okay. I think we've used our time.
That's all right.
Oh, did you?
Oh, yeah.
I was just going to say, something that has changed my life a lot was listening to Adam Miller and Thomas McConkie and taking 20 minutes a day to go sit on a bench in the woods around our house. And that my prayer is a meditative event. It's not a structured prayer any longer. And often I sit there for 5 minutes with nothing to say, and then all of a sudden there'll be a flood of thoughts, and we'll talk, and then eventually they stop, and I'm done. And I've been asking, you know, my purpose seems to be in the rearview mirror, and so I've been asking, why am I still here? What am I supposed to be doing now? And you know, the thoughts come a lot better in that kind of an approach to God for me. And with Adam Miller's approach, the negative voice that incessantly told me how terrible I am shut up for the first time in my life. And so I definitely recommend finding new ways to quiet your mind when you communicate. And I'll probably talk to you about what I think I'm supposed to be doing. You might have some ideas, but it came that, you know, you could do the just serve thing, just to go out and start doing stuff. And then it came to me, well, but with your business background and your training, you probably need to be looking for which of these organizations needs some help in structure, in the way to think about the 6 Ps. And to do that for free. I mean, it's like I have the skills of a highly paid consultant, but I could certainly put lunches together, which I do, but it would be even better to be able to say, would you like to spend a few hours a week for the next 6 weeks to figure out how to make this even more effective? And I won't charge you a dime for it. We just go through it and figure it out. And that's kind of what came to me. I don't really know how to do it yet, but the ideas will just keep circulating until something happens. But I would highly recommend to everybody that's struggling with the chaos, find a place where you can meditatively pray and just be quiet every day. And that has changed my life.
Wow.
Those 2 guys are great.
They are. That's great power, and that's, Kristen, you touched on that. That's what you're doing. Lynn, that was spectacular. Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, I imagined it being great, and it's even greater than I imagined. So I appreciate that so much. Thank you. It made me think of this conversation, a book, Feeding the Soul by Tabitha Brown. I don't know if I'd never heard of her. This is a Audible deal today for like $3 that my wife picked up. And, you know, she's got giant hair. Her hairdo has a name. She calls her hairdo. But she has, talk about personal revelation. I mean, she has amazing stories, and she has a really hard life. Had a hard life. She's actually very famous, even though I hadn't heard of her. But there's a lot of famous people I haven't heard of. And she's kind of a mother to millions of people on TikTok. She has millions of followers. And she says really beautiful, good, powerful things that are helping people, you know, and and then reading her story, how she got there, and her tenacity of trying to listen to God and doing what God gave her this dream of doing, I thought was very powerful, you know. And then she's just fun to listen to. She's got that black Southern, you know, just fun to listen to. Anyway, Feeding the Soul, it's just another example of a person doing what you just talked about tonight. Trying to listen, be aware, being quiet long enough, right?
Yeah.
No formal prayer, just, I mean, sometimes you're begging, but, and then just listening and looking. And it's amazing what happens, where God can lead you. And the other thought is, I like to listen to the Moth Radio Show. I mean, I listen to a lot of podcasts, but there's often a lot of painful stories on there, remarkably painful stories. But they come out at the end in a very positive, beautiful way. And the thought came to me, I mean, this whole universe, this whole life is just story making.
Yeah.
You know, and God's the greatest storyteller through us. And there would not be any interesting stories without, like, killing what you're going through, whether it's that you just kind of want to throw it away because you're so frustrated and discouraged. But at the end of the day, those are the stories when they go, this is just like so bleak, but they come through it and success comes. You know, and I think for our country, I mean, it wasn't like everything was perfect before. I mean, things have been just degrading for a long time.
The leadership we have is symptomatic of, is not...
Decades and decades.
Yeah, if we didn't have these leaders, somebody would have invented it.
Yeah, and so, I mean, sometimes things need to break before they can be reborn in a better way. And so, as much as it's painful to see what's going on, I'm hopeful, you know. I'm really hopeful that we'll get through this and I think get to a better place. That's my hope. And I hope you guys keep coming. A lot of the people are here, the faithful ones that have come for years, so thank you. And some of you have come for the first time, like Galen, that I've invited for a long time, but I appreciate you finally coming.
Finally matching my desire.
So it's really good to have you. So I was just going to quickly share. So I just had the opportunity that just is one of those things to say yes. You know, when I saw an opportunity, this is the Great Salt Lake Interfaith Action. So I did their a logo for them and stuff because when I saw at a rally their stuff, I just go, this needs to be better. So, anyway, you got to check them out because it's a neat organizations of lots of Salt Lake faiths. It wasn't, you know, our church is a very small part of it, and they're not officially, except for LDS or stewardship. They're kind of the LDS component. But a lot of other small congregations have come together, including my rabbi neighbor and other people. And it's fun. As I went to create this website, I just tried to find from every faith tradition something about the environment and why it's important. And there is beautiful things from everyone out there. And so those are kind of prominent. And these good people, it's mainly a couple of older women. I gotta be careful when I say that. My wife's almost 70. I mean, they're probably, that's probably, no, she is.
Really?
March she turned 70. And so anyway, I'm
through Spain.
She'll get on. I think she's on, so she's going to smack me. When I get home.
Oh, actually, she's not anymore.
I said
You lucked out.
she was on until I said that. And then she got off. Anyway.
Jane, you don't look anywhere near that.
No, she doesn't. I tell her that. My friends go, really? And I say, yeah. Well, I'm 5 years younger, and I feel like I look older than her. But anyway, it's just these two women have felt a call. You know, they're in different congregations, different Christian congregations. I can't remember what they are, and they've just kind of, in the last, 3 or 4 years, they felt a call to help support the Great Salt Lake and get people who have religious backgrounds to get more on board. And it's really a fun thing. It's been fun to work with them. But, that's kind of how these beautiful things happen. Is you just, like this group, I just fell into it, and so here I am, 13 years later. But thank you. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. And I hope you come again. Does anybody feel moved to offer some kind of a interesting blessing or prayer at the end. Doesn't have to be anything typical, but anything you want. Okay.
I certainly can.
Thank you.
Father and Mother, we're thankful that we can meet together as a group of like-minded people who are concerned about the challenges of this world. And we ask thee to do a couple of things. Speak peace to our hearts so that we can think clearly and hear clearly. And then secondly, that you'll provide the message that we need that will push us in a direction that will provide some peace and clarity for someone else. We're grateful for the work of Jay to put this together and for the beautiful work Interweave does. And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Okay.
That was so perfect. Thank you, Alan. Thank you for invoking our Heavenly Parents, which reminds me the next March meeting will be two powerhouses in that, MacArthur Krishna and Bethany Spalding Brady. So I had them years ago when they wrote their first book, Girls Who Choose God, but they will be talking about how to actually live our doctrine about Heavenly Parents.
And
Instead of just talking about it.
they're the ones that got me to come to faith again. The
Oh,
very
really?
first time, yeah.
Oh, fun. Anyway, they're going to be in town, and so I arranged for them to do our March thing, so that'll be really fun.
Oh, that's cool.
But thank you for invoking both of them. I appreciate that, and I just loved how you expressed that, and not going thee and thou. It just drives me nuts, too. So
Done that for a lot of years, but
So did I.
more comfortable than
I know. I have, my prayers have changed a lot, so thank
I
you.
actually found out that thee and thou used to be the more intimate terms.
Really?
In the English,
Intimate.
they were the more intimate terms. Just like in French, you got vouvoir.
Yeah, they're familiar.
Thou
version.
was the familiar, thank you, version. It was the-
Really?
yeah, thou was the tu.
Yeah,
Oh.
Spanish.
Yeah, sorry,
Or
keep
French.
switching.
Yeah, Spanish and
Two
French.
in Spanish.
That is fascinating. Because, I associate it with, like, the Bible, formal,
Yeah.
King's English. So my impression growing up, doesn't make it right, but was that it's, this is how you do to be reverent. And,
Yeah.
and as I've gotten older, I just want more personal, more,
Yeah, it's,
Well, you have heard that the church has come out and said we can now use other Bibles.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
a Bible.
It's going, about time.
I've been using them for years.
Yeah.
It's nice that they did that.
No, it is. It's just,
Open their minds to things. I like it.
yeah.
People
they're-
are doing, they finally get on board.
like Lynn said, it's hard ship to move very fast.
yes.
Move slowly.
But is the church leadership going to make that connection? Are they just going to let it
Elder Oaks gave a talk about
organically grow where prayer
using thou
doesn't
and
use King James
using
pronouns?
Who knows?
Are they waiting for the membership
It's
to
not
take
really
the lead?
another language, it's just our
Yeah.
English.
Grassroots.
I wanted, this is a movie, so maybe shouldn't, there's plenty of movies out there to see, but I thought this one made me think a lot. It might not be in all the theaters anymore, but look for a movie called The Testament of Anne Lee about the founding of the Shakers. It's
that sounds
a very
good.
interesting movie because it's kind of addresses religion from an ecstatic standpoint. That was a big part of their worship was dancing, but they also practiced celibacy, which is one of the reasons they died out.
Yeah. That would be a problem.
What's the good strategic plan?
Yeah, two opposite directions.
Yeah, looking for
What's
the inside.
interesting is that
Probably not just the outside.
life, it's done kind of like a musical, but musical
They
numbers,
asked me
but
to be the MC at that.
it's kind
So I was the
of
guy.
fascinating to watch. it just took everybody by surprise when it first came.
That sounds fun.
What is the name? Ann Lee?
The
What?
Testament of Ann Lee.
Testament of
It's got
Ann
the
Lee.
shakers.
Check it out.
But Flying Shakers, they came over here to have middling success in England, but they did better on the American frontier when they came out here just before the Revolutionary War.
One of the buildings still stands, and we spent the night in it.
Yeah.
Did you
New
really?
Hampshire.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's
they,
cool.
they were very devoted about things like architecture and furniture.
It was very pretty.
Wow.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.